Well, I am back from my vacation. It is like 30 degrees outside, so I and the cat are bundled up warm. Unlike my last 12-hour flight on a plane, this one was a red-eye flight, so I was sleeping for like 6 hours of it. So I managed to get like 2,000 words done, and then I fell asleep. Also, the guy in front of me had his seat pulled way back, so I was sitting with my computer kind of like half closed on the pull-out drink counter tray table in front of me. Yes, it was horrible. And there were screaming babies. So many screaming babies. Anyway. Oh, also, you know that fun thing that happens in, like, cartoon series and movies where there's a flight where they ping the PA system and they're like, if anyone with medical attention, or if anyone with medical expertise could please come to the front cabin, your assistance is needed. That happened on my flight, too. Apparently, like, one dude had a really bad headache and another person, like, threw up or something. It was a fun flight. Also, that was the most uncomfortable seat I've ever sat in. You're right, at least it wasn't the middle row. Where are you going? No, you're a part of this. Ugh. Anyway. You are loud. Anyway, so currently I am at a fun part of my story where I am 21,500 words in. So I'm actually still above the recommended word count for what day this is supposed to be, which means I can finish some applications for things. And I'm still unpacking and still jet lagged, so that's also fun. But yeah, so the part of the story that I am in right now, I'm kind of almost having a little bit of writer's block with. Even though I have an outline and I know what I want to say, but I'm not quite sure how I want to say it. So I have everything set up right now. So the adopted demon kid knows that, he's human and he's like kind of establishing his place on Earth, and he's met the female protagonist. She crashed into him at a party and like saw that his eyes were glowing, or saw that her eyes were glowing, and was like, gosh, you're pretty. And then she like pushed him down a staircase and no complaining. Anyway, and our female protagonist is currently staring at herself in the mirror, going like, why are my eyes changing colors, and am I sprouting scales? This is weird. And so right now I'm changing perspectives a lot more in the middle of the story than I have at the beginning of the story, where it was more large blocks of establishing character and text. And right now I'm kind of, writing like maybe 1,000 words from one person's perspective before changing again. And that is surprisingly more difficult because I don't like repeating myself. But in order for it to make sense that a character is in a scene, I have to repeat some of the things that are going on. Ow. Yes? You just don't like to hear me talk, do you? You can leave. Anyway, which brings me to writing a character voice so that so when a character is talking, sometimes Terry Pratchett does this a lot, which I really like, where he'll have like speaking quirks and accents, and they're like the weirdest like Cockney accents or whatever that his characters will talk with, and that gives them a certain way of phrasing things and a certain way of experiencing their world, because like we learned in 1984, how language shapes how people think about their world and their own experiences. So when you're writing a character, how your character talks, like, does your character use conjunctions? If they do use conjunctions, then they sound more normal. If they don't use conjunctions, they sound more formal. My character is like the best friend of the main character, and her name is Marcy. And Marcy, I have in my notes, I want her to be a conspiracy nut, and I want her to kind of always in the back of her head compare things in her real life to, you know, stories that she's read in a book somewhere. And I'm kind of basing her off of a Terry Pratchett character from The Amazing Maurice and His Educated Rodents. And the girl in the Terry Pratchett book, she's like 10 years old, and she carries around with her a bag of like cotton and wax and candles and matches. And, you know, one of the characters is like, why are you carrying all this stuff? And she's like, well, I'm carrying the cotton in case I'm trapped in a submarine and I need it to plug up all the holes. And so she basically has like this huge backpack that she just carries everywhere with her. Sorry, an alarm went off there for a second, but I'm back. So I'm trying to do that with my character, but because I'm doing third person limited, where when I'm writing from her perspective, I'm only really seeing what's going on in her head. I'm writing it like that, and I want to write it like that because it allows me to... So, you know how in monster movies, they say never show the monster because what you're imagining is always going to be more scary? What I want is, I'd never want the main character who's like kind of turning into a monster, getting horns and scales and all this crazy stuff. I never really want her to talk about her own appearance in exact terms, but I want other people to describe her to themselves. So like her friend Marcy, you know, before everything comes out, goes up to her and is like, your skin's kind of getting a little bit dry and scaly. Have you been moisturizing, right? And honestly, that whole running joke there is the entire reason I wanted to write from her perspective. But it opens me up to other plot points, because I think I mentioned before how when you're writing a character... Ow! When you're writing a character and you're only following one person, like in Harry Potter, Harry has to go everywhere in order for the audience to find out what's going on. Whereas if you're writing from the perspective of multiple characters, you don't necessarily have to have one character that gets into the middle of everything. Someone else can experience something, and then your audience will know what's going on. And I'm trying to do that, but it's kind of giving me a little bit of writer's block. Again, because I'm not sure how I want to write her. I have my notes on how I want to write her, but actually getting down and getting her voice is kind of what's difficult for me right now, because I don't want to repeat myself with facts that I've learned from, or that I've already written in other scenes, and I don't want to have her accidentally, I don't know, I don't want to lose her voice, which means that I have to know how her voice sounds so I can get a sense of what I'm writing it. It'll develop more as I write and in subsequent drafts, but getting a firm establishment of how does this character think? How does this character sound when I'm writing from her perspective is very important to me. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do today. I'm going to try and finish her scene, which I think will be another 2,000 words, and we'll see how it goes.